Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome once again to Syracuse Football Postgame presented by Krause Health. My name is Brent Axe, and we are here following a 62-24 win, a breezy day for Syracuse football at the Carrier Dome, quite literally in a sense, as there's now air conditioning in the building, right? Some concerns, though, for Syracuse against Albany for sure. Did Dino Babers find his starting quarterback? I don't think Tommy DeVito really did anything to necessarily lose the job. Sean Tucker puts on a show, and penalty problems. Those are the headlines that come out of this one. So we welcome you aboard. Looking forward to seeing your comments on this matchup here. We're live with you here on Facebook, on our Syracuse Orange Sports YouTube page, and on Twitter as well. Always love it when you guys can hang with us live. We're on just after Syracuse football games end on those formats mentioned, but just know that this does archive on YouTube. You can find the YouTube clip on syracuse.com, on social media, on our social media channels. I put it in my recap on syracuse.com as well. So as we keep an eye on the podium here, and I'm curious to hear what Dino Babers has to say about a number of things that we just mentioned there, and it looks like the coach is coming to the podium, so let's see if we can take a listen.
Coach, what you could say about Sean Tucker's performance, over 100 yards receiving and rushing, 5 total touchdowns?
I thought it was outstanding. It was good to see him finish some runs and then also be extremely explosive in the throw game, being able to get those balls to the middle of the field and turn those passes into home runs. It was awesome.
So I got two in back, and Mario and then Mark right next to each other. Right back there. Back up.
How difficult a week was it for you?
This week was taxing. There's no doubt about it. But I think the kids, they really picked me up. You know, they let it go a little bit faster than coaches do. I'm not sure I've let it go yet, but they do a really good job of keeping me in the right frame of mind. And this is a good ball club with a good senior leadership, and we're going to see where that leadership is going to take us.
Coach, you said this week that you were going to determine a starting quarterback. What did you learn just watching on the field?
But I think we got two good ones. I think we got two that got some skill, and we'll go back and check the tape, and we'll make some decisions.
The fact that Gary finished out the game, does that mean anything?
Absolutely not.
Right here to Mike.
Hey, Dino, right here. I know you never want to be without one of your best players in Taj Harris, but what did his absence show you about your quarterback specifically?
Well, the ball got to go around to a lot more other guys, and I thought a lot more other guys were involved, which was good to see. And you guys got an opportunity to see those young guys, which everybody wanted to see. Now, with that, you saw, penalties and things like that, guys missing signals, and that's what happens when they're young, and they're occasionally great and not consistently good. We've got to find a way to get maturity in that group so they can help us. But it does take time.
Gosh, over here. You said that this week would be trying to figure out who the starting quarterback would be potentially, and you just said how both played really good. But with Sean Tucker, why did you keep deciding to give him the ball in the first half? What were you seeing on some of those outside zone runs that were, just making him get a lot of space in the open field?
It's interesting how he had more space in the first half based off of some things that were going on in the throwing game. There's such a balance. You can take things away. Those guys, defensive coaches, offensive coaches, it's a chess game out there. So there's things that can be taken away, but when you're hitting some passes and you're getting the ball pushed downfield a little bit, it kind of opens up some of those running lanes inside.
Dino, given you had kind of personnel advantages at a lot of places on the field today, how much can you learn about your quarterbacks today, or how much of it is just like it's time to make a choice and,
You can learn a lot. That's why I have to go back and check the tape. There's certain things that they need to be doing on certain plays. Now, if they don't do those things and they turn around and put the ball somewhere else and their success, yeah, that's good for the average fan. But when we're looking at the technical things, the things that are going to matter when the competition is not like that. Competitional advantage, a competitive advantage maybe this week, but there's going to be weeks when it's going to be even. There's going to be weeks when the opponents have a better advantage when it comes to personnel. So we need to be technically right. So those are things we'll go back and look at.
When you leave here today, do you feel like you know who it is, or is it close enough that you really have to look at the tape?
it's fair enough that I need to go back and look at the tape. It's not something that you want to do on emotion. You want to take the emotion completely out of it, even though it's a very emotional decision.
Yeah.
Coach, we saw Andre Schmidt set the career field goal record here today. Just considering everything he's accomplished since he came here as a walk-on, I just wonder if you could share some thoughts on seeing him get the record here today.
You know, the things I think when I think about Andre, I think about the very first time, and this was Sterling Hoffrichter. He comes up to me and he goes, "Coach, the new kicker is really good." I'm like, "Which kicker?" And he points to Andre. I'm like, I said, "You're my kicker." He goes, "Coach, he's really good." I said, "Well, how good is he?" And Sterling said, "He's better than me." And when he said that, I looked at Sterling. And I said, "He's not better than you until I say he's better than you." He says, "Coach, he's good." I said, "All right, we'll let him kick next time, not this time." And then Andre comes up and he kicks the next time. And we have a camera. I've talked to you guys about this. We have the goalpost on our field, and we have a camera right in the middle to take pictures. And he comes up the first time, he kicks, and he hits the camera. The camera the bar is as small as this is. And he hits the bar in the middle of the goalpost. And then we move the ball to the right hash, and he hits the pole again. And then we kick some more kicks, we go to the left hash, and he hits the pole. I had never seen that before. And Sterling's looking at me and he says, "I told you." And that was his freshman year. And about, 10, 12 days later, he was our kicker. And I can still remember after 4 weeks, I think it was about 4 weeks deep in the season, the way he was kicking. I'm like, this guy, we got to give him a scholarship. And I won't say the coaches. Some coaches were like, well, let's wait at the end of the year. Let's see. I mean, he could just be on a streak and he could bottom out. And I'm going to take credit for this one. I looked at him and I said, I am not going to be the dumb coach that has some kicker that turns into an All-American that's not on scholarship. I said, we're putting him on scholarship right now. And it was about 4 weeks in, and that's the year that he won the Lugos.
All right, what do you say we bow out of that a little bit, but some post-game comments from Dino Babers there, and you heard him talking specifically there about Andre Schmidt, who set the program record, 60 field goals made and counting. And you heard him discuss the quarterbacks there. Look, I don't think we're going to see a change of quarterback necessarily. I think we're going to see Tommy DeVito start next week. I think Syracuse knows it has what I would call a capable backup in Garrett Schrader. Nothing changes in the quarterback spot because Sean Tucker kind of muddied those waters, but in a very good way. So let's start there. Sean Tucker with 5 touchdowns on the day. The Syracuse record set by Jim Brown and Eric Dungy for touchdowns responsible in a game is 6. Tucker is tied with a few other players at 5. He was sensational today, 132 yards and 4 touchdowns on the ground. He was also Syracuse's leading receiver with 121 yards receiving, 3 catches, including a 72-yard catch and run and a touchdown there. Now, it is Albany, so keep that in mind. But, folks, I think Sean Tucker is a special talent. I think he sees the hole quickly. He hits the hole. His acceleration, his combination between speed and power. Syracuse has a star on its hands. This is not one of those, hey, it's Albany things. He has proven this time and time again. The only reason he was held back last week against Rutgers is because Babers didn't give him the football after he ran for, what was that, a 24-yard touchdown last week, and they just went to the air in a game that they were struggling. Well, clearly, Sean Tucker has become the star offensively for this team. It almost doesn't matter who the quarterback is. I say that somewhat facetiously, of course, because you need a quarterback that can make some throws and run an offense. But, folks, what's happening here, and shout out to my guy Dan right here. We'll show your comment from Vancouver. What's happening up in Vancouver, Dan? Appreciate that. And Dan says it here as well. Folks, we're going to have a serious conversation here about giving Sean Tucker the 44. Period, end of sentence. I don't know when it comes. I think he should be allowed to kind of embrace his own number 34. If so, I know he said in the past that he'd be interested in wearing the 44. And I think that's the way it should be done. If we're going to take the 44 off the wall, if you will, and unretire it, someone needs to earn it. I have never been a fan of it being a recruiting tool, especially after what Jim Brown, Floyd Little, and all the names did, establishing the 44. Rob Conrad, I think, was a capable, suitable 44, the last man to really wear it and embrace it and make it something. And I feel like you evolve with the times. And if a player wants the number and wants to earn it, it's kind of a carrot dangling. Great. Sean Tucker is showing that he's the type of running back that's next in line at Syracuse in terms of the great running backs this school has had, and he has a very, very bright future ahead of him. What happened in that situation, though, is he clouded the picture on the quarterback thing. Dino Babers, and we heard the comments there, he's going to look at the film and all the stuff you would expect the coach to say after the game, wanted to find a quarterback today. I don't know if he did. I don't know if Sean Tucker allowed him to. Tommy DeVito had a beautiful 73-yard touchdown pass to Damian Alford. It was a gorgeous throw. It was under duress. He was hit literally the millisecond he got rid of the football. DeVito, just to give you some numbers while we're discussing it here, he finishes the day passing the football just 6 of 9 for 147 yards and a touchdown. He did throw a pick six. That was completely not his fault. If you want to be fair about it, Trevor Pena had the football, let it go through his hands in that sense. I don't think DeVito did anything to lose the job. I don't think Garrett Schrader did anything today that says, God, give him the job right now. Schrader was good. He was 11 of 15 for 190 yards. He had a touchdown pass, the Sean Tucker catch and run, the 73-yard scamper. He also threw a bad interception, certainly willing to run the football. Schrader, 9 carries, 42 yards. I think we came in today expecting a starting quarterback to be named. We came out of this game saying, if nothing changes, nothing changes, right? DeVito starts, Schrader's the backup. They'll probably still keep putting him in the football game in certain situations. You got to keep pace with Liberty next week. Liberty has one of the best quarterbacks in college football. I heard Mel Kiper Jr. say just today that Malik Willis is going to be one of the first 2 quarterbacks selected in the upcoming NFL draft in 2022. So Syracuse is obviously going to need another great performance from its defense, and they were sensational today. They're going to need their offense to keep pace. So in terms of the quarterback, that's the same. Tucker's the star. You heard it asked about in postgame there. Taj Harris did not dress today. Now, he's tweeted shortly before the game started that he'd be back next week, but he was in street clothes. A Syracuse spokesperson said it is injury related, what happened to Taj Harris. So it looks like they were being precautionary with Taj. If anything, it forced DeVito and Schrader to find some other receivers out there. But again, Tucker stole the show with the way that he caught and ran with the football today. But Courtney Jackson, 3 catches, 47 yards. Cooper gets in there for a few. Anthony Quealy had a touchdown taken away from something we're going to talk about here shortly, which was a major penalty issue. They're using the tight end earlier in the game. Then Luke Benson goes down with a knee injury. He had crutches on the sideline, so it looks like he's out for a significant period of time. All told, I love to see Aronde Gatson out there. We told you about Damian Alford's 73-yard touchdown. It was his only catch of the game. So all told, Syracuse had 9 different players catch the football. That's a good sign. Syracuse had 623 total yards, 337 of that through the air. Look, some of these numbers just don't matter considering it's Albany, right? But there's one that you grab the highlighter and you go over it many, many times here. So those are the positives from this game. A glaring problem from this matchup, and I'll hop back in the chat here because I'm sure you guys are discussing this here. 16 penalties for 163 yards. And folks, let me tell you, that's not a case of, well, all the backups were in and the young guys making mistakes down the stretch. Syracuse had 8 penalties in the first half of this football game. And the really scary thing on that standpoint is, amongst a few, is how much of this is occurring on special teams. Syracuse had a huge return by Trevor Pena wiped because of a hold on special teams. Blocks in the back, procedure penalties. Andre Schmidt had to step back 5 more yards, and we're talking a 43 and a 48-yard field goal. Schmidt's a great kicker, as we noted, set the record today, but that's a big difference for a kicker to 43 versus 48 yards because of a false start penalty. 3 games into the season, Albany, you should have 5 penalties against Albany, and 4 of them are from the young guys that are getting it in the second half. That is absolutely, it's disgusting, frankly, that a football team can have that many penalties. And this is a trend, folks. Now, Syracuse has had some of the youngest players, some of the youngest rosters out on the field in recent years, particularly last year with all the young guys that had to come out due to injury. But the trend is, in 2019, only Florida State was a team more penalized than Syracuse in the country. Last year, Syracuse was like 105th in the country in penalties, and that trend is going to continue. I'd be interested to see what the stats are after this weekend, considering they had 163 yards in penalties, 16 total penalties. They missed Justin Lustig badly. They need somebody to step in and be a full-time special teams coach, because right now it's being shared amongst the coaching staff. That's unacceptable, given how important special teams is in the game generally, how important it is to Syracuse with their kickers and punters in recent years, and given the amount of consistency in the penalties on special teams, they have to rescue that. Syracuse is a team that obviously cannot afford to kick itself in the shins, shoot itself in the toes, whatever expression you want to use here. 16 penalties. I don't care who you play. I don't care what the lead is. I don't care what the circumstance is. You can't afford that. Now, are they going to have 16 penalties against Liberty next week? I don't know. The way this team is going and the undisciplined play that's happening here, that points right at coaching, folks. That is the thing you point right at and say, through all of this, what is happening? It's probably better to say, what's not happening? And by the way, this was not a case of a bad officiating crew. I see John highlighting it here. There were blatant face masks, false starts, offsides, blocks in the back. This was not like that joke of a Big Ten crew that Syracuse faced last week that gave Dino Babers that ridiculous personal foul call, did not call anything on Greg Schiano, even though he's throwing a hissy fit on the field. This is a case of coaching. And I don't know what's getting lost in translation. I don't know why this isn't happening. I know it's a young team, but after a while, you cannot keep coming back to that. There's a thin line between reasons and excuses, right? This is happening too much. And Syracuse is the team that can least afford to find themselves in that spot in terms of penalties because of obvious deficiencies and what they're trying to do and trying to keep up. I mean, Liberty, folks, in a short period of time has become a top 25 caliber opponent. We told you about Malik Willis. There's a lot of speed on that team. You have 8 penalties. If you do just what you did in the first half against Liberty next week, you're going to lose because they're going to capitalize on that. They're going to get the possessions out of that, and they're going to score off of that. It's going to be a track meet if Syracuse can keep up. Friday night, remember, it's a Friday night game at the Carrier Dome, and a pretty important game. I think there's a huge difference for Syracuse between 2-2 out of non-conference play and 3-1. I said before the season that you had to win 3 games in non-conference play, no matter what that combination was. And losing to Rutgers last week put a lot of pressure on Syracuse to beat Liberty, right? And between the two, I think Rutgers is the more beatable team. Not to say Syracuse can't beat Liberty. Liberty's been talked up as if they're a top 5 team. They are beatable, but it's going to be a challenge, particularly with some of the things that Syracuse is trying to figure out here. As Kevin notes here in the comments, Schrader, a little misspelling there, Kevin. Schrader did not go out and win the quarterback spot. He didn't. Tommy didn't lose it. He didn't win it. We're just kind of in this quarterback purgatory, if you will, between these 2 quarterbacks. So we'll see really next week who wins the job against, a tougher opponent. So the penalties, that is the big takeaway from this game. When Sean Tucker has a near record day, quarterback competitions are always sexy to talk about. 16 penalties. And again, I want to go, not to pull a coach here, but I do want to go back and watch the film and note starters versus backups in terms of this. But what's going to come out of that is a majority of that, at least half of those were occurred by regular players because it happened in the first half. They had 8 penalties in the first half. So either way, completely unacceptable. Big, big, big issue for Syracuse as they go into Liberty next week. But look, all told, they won a game they had to win. It was 0-0 at halftime last week. Much bigger halftime score, 62 points on the board. First time since they beat Wagner 4 years ago that they've scored over 60 points. Yeah, it's kind of false confidence. It's kind of empty calories. You know how you're hungry and you don't have time to eat like a nice meal or something. You just kind of go to the vending machine at work and you grab a Snickers bar and it kind of satisfies you for a little bit. That's what this game is, okay? It satisfies a hunger that they had coming out of last week, but you didn't need a meal here. So that hunger's got to carry over into Liberty. That desire's got to carry over to Liberty. The creativity has to carry over to Liberty, although Syracuse ran a pretty basic offense today, and that's what you had to do when Sean Tucker's running the football. But we saw some other players get their hands on the football. You'll have Taj Harris back in the lineup, at least according to him, next week, and you'll have somewhat of a settled situation at quarterback, though Schrader is always an option to come in certain spots. And by the way, I think should continue to come in certain spots for Tommy DeVito, not when you're pinned up against your own end zone at the 16-yard line, red zone. I mean, that guy bounces off tacklers. He extends plays with his legs. I think the weakness there with Schrader is he does not have the arm strength that DeVito does. There were a couple of underthrown balls, his interception. You had Max Mang streaking there. He just completely overthrew the football, and you can talk about timing and all these things. He just can't make those throws. He overthrew 3 receivers last week as well. So I don't think Schrader came in and won the job. I don't think Schrader came in and overwhelmed. I think Schrader gives Syracuse options at the quarterback position. And frankly, I think when Jacobian Morgan rounds out, he could be a pretty good quarterback here at Syracuse, but he's developing at what you would call a normal rate, right? Freshman comes in, got thrust out there last year with all the injuries and the situations that Syracuse was put in, does have the skill set to be a dual threat guy, but hasn't overwhelmed at this point to take the job. So look, Syracuse has two pretty good quarterbacks. They don't have a great quarterback. They don't have somebody who took the job necessarily in this game. But really, why would you take the job against Albany? That's the trick. See, it was timing. It wasn't a sense of this team will tell us who the quarterback is. It was the team just needs to know who their quarterback is, and it happens to be after this game. It happens to be in week 3. And I get that theory. There's only so much you can split reps and go through the whole 2 quarterback thing. So Dino will make a decision. It'll settle things down, but everybody knows that Schrader continues to be an option here. Look, the defense did what it had to do. You know, frankly, the only headline here would have been if the defense struggled. Now, Albany put up 24 points. Most of that was garbage time. He had some backups in there. That doesn't concern me. There was a pick 6 that Albany got. As we mentioned, Trevor Pena, ball went right through his hands, handed Albany a free touchdown there. The defense shut down Albany. Absolutely shut him down. Just what you would expect. Under Cuffler, which is a terrific name, by the way, 69 yards passing. Carino had just 19 yards rushing. All told, Albany had 135 total yards. Let's see here. They just had 12 first downs, 3 of 14 on third down. Everything you would expect here. Like, the numbers almost don't matter here. I think Jones continues to show he's going to be one of the best linebackers in college football soon. He's already one of the best linebackers in the ACC. He leads the ACC in tackles coming into this game. And, you know, nobody got hurt. There were not any significant injuries beyond Luke Benson, as we mentioned. And boy, you know how much I scream for Syracuse to use the tight ends more. They appeared to be going down that road. Poor guy hurts his knee and was sitting on the sideline with crutches and a wrap around his knee. So Benson, we'll see what the official diagnosis is, but certainly is going to be out in the near future. I wonder if Chris Elmore returns next week for Syracuse. Speaking of tight end depth, we had heard perhaps 3 games with this kind of unknown suspension that he's under. It is not injury related. For what I understand, it is not academic related. It's just one of those things that falls under FERPA, which are federal privacy laws that Syracuse cannot discuss the status of why Chris Elmore is not playing right now. He's there. He's on the sideline. He's supporting his teammates, but we had heard maybe 3 games was the penalty, if you will, and maybe he'll be back out in the field next week, and Syracuse really needs him. So take care of business day for the Orange. That's what they did. No significant injuries beyond Benson. They maybe somewhat solved the quarterback issue. They've got a big penalty problem to work on, and Sean Tucker's a star, folks. Sean Tucker's a star. Michael, I like your comment here because Taj Smith getting a rest was a good thing. Get him ready for the meat of the schedule. And you almost had to force DeVito and Schrader to look for other options. Look, Taj is a talented guy. I would look for him too. He'd be my first read every time. But this happened with Taj. This happened with Tristan Jackson. They tend to lock in on him, right? And even that extra half second spent looking for Taj, you're going to miss open receivers elsewhere. Today, Syracuse had to put Alford out there. They had to put Gadsden out there, who's the son of former NFL wide receiver Arondé Gadsden. These are both 6'5", 6'6" targets. Alford showed he could streak down that sideline and get open. He's going to play going forward. He should play going forward. So you were forced into it to look around, see what else you had, and the result is 9 people caught a football today against Albany. That's good news. You want Taj Harris on the field, certainly, because he's a weapon. He's your number 1 receiver, okay? Taj Smith. I keep saying Taj. Did I say Taj Smith? What do I keep screwing up the name here. But you want Taj Harris on the field. I keep saying Taj Smith, and you guys are calling me out on that, and you should. I'm getting my Tajes confused here. But look, you need him on the field. But today forced Syracuse to look around. Oh, let's see what else is here in the offense. And he'll be back next week. So good news there for the Syracuse offense, right? So all told, they did what they had to do. Now you get ready for Liberty. And that is going to be a heck of a matchup. Huge difference between 3-1 coming out of non-conference play or 2-2. I never thought in a short period of time. I mean, like Albany today was a bye game, folks. It was a bye game, right? You buy a win. Literally $360,000 as we reported earlier this week. That's what Liberty was when they signed up for a 3-game series with Liberty a few years ago. They beat Syracuse's butt handily last year, and they're the better team now. So the bye game turns into now you're punching up. It's a Friday night game, ACC Network once again. Wild things happen on Friday night. Anybody catch that Louisville game last night against Central Florida? So Syracuse has to show out. They did what they had to do against Ohio. They completely fell on their face against Rutgers. Today they took care of business. Liberty is going to be a huge test, huge for Syracuse in a lot of ways. You got to beat a non-conference opponent like that on a game where, Friday Night Football doesn't get gangbusters ratings, but you're one of the only few games on television, people flipping around, and you don't want to embarrass yourself. In that sense, you want revenge for last year, and you got to show, you are the team that bought this series for a reason. You got to flex a little bit if you're Syracuse. It's not going to be easy. Malik Willis, boy, that guy makes throws on the run that just make your eyes bug out. And he is a legit NFL prospect. A lot of speed on that team. We'll get to know Liberty a little bit more as the week goes along here, but it's going to be a challenge for Syracuse. Then they get into ACC play, and boy, the ACC this year is it's a toss-up. I mean, Florida State lost to an FCS team last week in Jacksonville State. We mentioned the Louisville game last night. Who knows? Boston College lost their quarterback for the year. If anything, there is opportunity for Syracuse in the ACC. Whether they take advantage of that remains to be seen. My man Daryl here will highlight his comment, says 2 takeaways. 1, the offensive line pushed around too many times by Albany's defensive line. And 2nd, this team is undisciplined. Dino should absolutely be embarrassed from the showing. There is no question he's embarrassed by that. Bean points it out here too. How about that? Western Michigan beat Pittsburgh today. Our old friend Tim Lester at Western Michigan. ECC having a rough go of it so far this year. But Daryl, 2 great points. One I didn't bring up. While Sean Tucker found a lot of holes to run through today, the pass protection was nowhere near what it needed to be against a team like Albany, right? I mentioned the DeVito touchdown throw. He got that off just in time. There were other throws. Both he and Schrader were under more duress than they should be against Albany. They shifted some things around on the offensive line today. I think they were trying some things. So maybe that was a factor there, but that's a big concern too. And of course, the penalties were just absolutely embarrassing. There is no other way to put that, right? So again, just a reminder, friends, we'll be back here a day shorter than usual. Short week ahead. Friday night, 8 o'clock kickoff. So we'll be here well into Friday night, Saturday morning on Postgame. Just a reminder that our program Orange Weekly now airs live Thursdays at 1 o'clock. If you miss either this post-game show or Orange Weekly Live, it's archived on our Syracuse Orange Sports page on YouTube, in case you miss it and can catch it that way. Always appreciate you guys coming by live here today. Oh, West Virginia. Thank you, Bean, looking up all the scores here. West Virginia. Now, is that a final today? Did they beat Virginia Tech 27-21? Mamma mia. What a rough go of it for the ACC here. Maybe Syracuse can take advantage of it. We shall see. But we'll be back with you Friday night in terms of post game. But next time we'll be here and you want to talk Syracuse football with us live Thursday at 1 o'clock, Orange Weekly with Nate Mink and myself. And we'll get you ready for Friday Night Lights, the Orange and Liberty at the Carrier Dome. In the meantime, you guys enjoy the rest of your weekend. And we will talk to you again after the Orange take on Liberty next week. Thanks for hanging, everybody.